Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope all of you are doing good. And I'm sure you've heard by now. If not, I'm about to tell you that the bump stock ban has been struck down and the ATF's rule has been removed by the Supreme Court of the United States. This was in a 6-3 decision. You could say across party lines, if you will. The 6 supposedly conservative justices voted to strike down the bump stock ban, and the 6 liberals voted to affirm it. They wanted to uphold it. Now, I can't remember how to pronounce all of their names, but you know the usual suspects. Sotomayor, Kagan, and I forget, but I think the other one might be pronounced Jumanji or something like that. Again, it's hard to keep track of their names. She doesn't know what a woman is. I can't remember how to say her name. So this is really, really good news, but, and there is a but here, and this might be an unpopular viewpoint that I have tonight, but I'm going to share it with you. Look, I'm going to talk about why this is excellent news, and it's a huge victory for the Second Amendment, kind of, but mainly for the Administrative Procedures Act, actually. And has anyone read this yet? I'm not going to sit and read the whole thing to you. However, I saw some stuff in here where I'm like, really? So the bump stock ban case is over. Michael Cargill out of Texas won. That's totally awesome because trust me, guys, the ATF has been putting forth a new rule like every week, it seems like, every month. Maybe during a slow period of time, they might go a couple months. Well, all of these different bans and reclassifications of are you a dealer, all of that, this was a super slippery slope. And I think this stops a lot of that. This in conjunction with the district court judge vacating the pistol brace ban out of Texas as well. So there's been a couple really, really good things that have happened in the courts. And I hate this so bad, but there always has to be a but. And there's a couple things in here I want to read to you that I've been kind of listening to some videos that some of the 2A channels have been doing on YouTube and other places. And for some reason, a lot of them don't like to read this one part that I'm going to get to here in just a few minutes because, yeah. Nobody in the Supreme Court, it seems like, likes machine guns. There's really not anybody left except for just people like you and people like me that believe that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed because they did reclassify the bump stock and say, look, this is not a machine gun anymore. Again, awesome. I'll take that. But it's still pretty darn obvious, as was in the Heller decision that was written by the late Antonin Scalia, where he reiterated a bunch of times in there and said, yeah, but the Second Amendment doesn't actually cover particularly dangerous or unusual weapons. This has some stuff in here that I was like, eh. Well, at first I was like, whoa. And then I stopped for a minute and I'm like, go figure. So great day for the Second Amendment. I see in the chat right now, and it is. I just hate it that there always has to be a this is awesome, comma, but they still reiterated that they're still fine with gun control generally and went in and I'll get to that in just a minute. But before I do, I want to thank all of you for the many ways you help support the channel. Thanks for all of you who support on Patreon, YouTube channel members, as well as Locals, which is a different site, censorship-free. We do an extra live stream there every week, and I post tons of content that you are not going to see here on YouTube. Also, check out that other site that's down there in the description that if you say the name of it, I'll just leave it at that. Also, Myriad Social. Myriad Social is not only just a censorship-free site, but it's uncensorable. It's on the blockchain. And I'm going to show you guys something that happened to me in just a minute here on a so-called censorship-free site that happens to be owned by Elon Musk. I think I just got nailed on Twitter or whatever the heck it's called. So it's nice to have a site that's not only supposedly censorship-free, but one that's truly uncensorable. That's what Myriad Social is. The link's down there in the description. And I post all kinds of cool stuff there. Like I posted an event that I'm going to be at. I'm going to be the guest and speaking at an event for Michigan House of Representatives candidate Josh Powell. Now, if you remember him, we've talked about him quite a bit, and he's a good friend of the channel and a good friend of a lot of yours. Really cool guy. He ran for that special election in Michigan. He did lose, unfortunately. Things would be much better, especially with this new gun control that's going to be coming to Michigan. Every time we get a victory in the Supreme Court, states like Michigan and many others come back with retaliatory gun control, and we're going to hit with a barrage of it here in Michigan. And I'm going to talk about a bill that's just been submitted today in direct retaliation and response. So Josh did lose in that special election. However, he did a lot better than people would think. He did a really good campaign, and he's like a really, really good dude that I've become friends with. So I'm going to be the 20th. Check my Myriad Social. There's an events page there. Just go over there. It's totally free to join, or you don't even need to join. And you can see all of my posts there. I also posted it on Locals and some of the other sites. So definitely check that out. Now, if you guys are looking for this just dropped like crazy in the last 2 days. So if you want to know more about this, something that you'll definitely be very pleased, check out my Myriad Social. Links down there in the description. And I just made a post that has more information on this right here, which is Russian 762x39, and it has been banned from import. So big shout out to Myriad.social. They've never censored any of my content there, and they actually literally can't, which I'm kind of thinking this is a really cool thing. It's a newer site. I'd like to see a lot more of you over there. Make sure you do a friends request so I can friend you back, and you can post whatever the heck you want on the uncensorable. Again, it's not held on one central server. They're not using Google servers. They're not doing any of that like most of the other places do. It's called the blockchain. Look it up if you're not familiar, but definitely go over there and check out Myriad Social. And I hope to see some of you guys at the event for Josh Powell. The flyer and all the details are over there on Myriad Social and my Locals and other places, but I want you guys to check it out on Myriad because it's a cool site. So I was like so excited. Got up today, started getting ready for work, and then I got a text message from Jane Locke. So shout out to her. And then it was a few minutes after that, she's like, dude, bump stock ban is gone. I can't remember exactly how she worded it, but I'm like, I was getting ready and had a truck to load and all that kind of stuff to do. And it was a hectic day today. So I'm like, sweet. Then my wife calls me a few minutes later. I'm a working man, guys. I literally am working outside and have a lot of stuff on my plate at all times. So I was like, dude, this is sweet. How many of you have been watching this channel? Quick question, and I will be reading all of the chat when I replay it throughout the weekend. Excellent chat last weekend, by the way. You guys are like totally awesome. So thank you for all of the awesome conversations you guys were having last week. But how many of you have been watching this channel? Now, not many of you have been because it was a teeny channel then where there might be like 10, 15, 20 people watching maybe when the Trump bump stock ban went through. And how many of you remember watching me when this was all going on in real time, like 4, 5 years ago now? Probably close about 5 years ago. And I was just going nuts over it. I'm like, this is insane. First of all, a bump stock is not a machine gun. Like, no way. I know Mateo was there then. Maybe there was somebody else. I think I recognized some of you that were watching this channel back in like 2020, 2021, right? But it wasn't just that it was the bump stock that was banned, which in and of itself is completely abhorrent. That's where it ends right there, banning anything. Are you kidding me? We live in a country where the supreme law of the land is shall not be infringed. But it was the way that they did it. Because the ATF had said for years and years and years, under the Barack Hussein Obama administration, back when the current former vice president, right? That's what we call him here. the former vice president, back when he was the former vice president, they said, dude, it's a bump stock. It's a piece of plastic. It's not a machine gun. We'd love to ban it. We'd love to ban every last gun, but the ATF under them said we can't do it. We just can't do it because it's just not. Do you remember that? Well, then something happened in Vegas. I'm going to be real vague on that just for reasons. Just due to the site we're on and just the way things are in the world of you have to speak in cryptic codes and can't really say what you want to. But something happened in Vegas and it was tragic. And did it sound like a bump stock to you guys? I'll just ask you that. Did it sound like one? And Trump said, I don't like bump stocks, get it gone. And they said, sir, we can't ban bump stocks. They're just not machine guns. Barack Hussein Obama says they're not machine guns. We just can't do it. And he said, I don't care. And then at that time, acting Attorney General Whitaker just did such an end around of the Administrative Procedures Act, of the Second Amendment, and around the United States Congress, who the Constitution literally says makes law. Well, I was ranting about that stuff in real time, and I know you guys agree with me, where it's like, dude, we're all looking at this stuff when it happened, and we're like, it's just not a machine gun. Physically, it's not a machine gun. And then there was those of us who truly love the Second Amendment, right? See, I make a lot of good friends here who are Second Amendment absolutists. I also, sometimes people, no, they like me. They always come back and they make up and whatever. But some people for a few minutes now and again will pretend they don't like me because I'm like so Second Amendment absolutist. Like, I don't care who did it. I call it out. And I've called it out when it was BS. And we're sitting there thinking, wait a minute. This is not just against the Second Amendment, obviously, because it literally says shall not be infringed. This is like the easiest thing to understand in the whole wide world. So that means nothing could be banned. Literally not even one of the 26,000 federal gun control laws, regulations, CFRs, all of this BS. It's so long you can't even read the titles to most of this. It's all unconstitutional. Marbury v. Madison, very early Supreme Court case, 1803. All laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are void. So there you go. I've cited the Supreme Law of the Land. I've cited very early Supreme Court precedent. We shouldn't even have to be here right now, but yet again, here we are. So major victory. They finally say the same things that I was saying and all of you were saying ever since we started this channel, basically. The channel was very new when this happened. We're like, dude, it's just physically not a machine gun. It can't be. And by the way, Congress makes law. And by the way, the Administrative Procedures Act, which, look, when that was passed, that's one of the big days that we truly lost America. Let's face it. When Congress literally delegated their authorities to make law down to these bureaucracies, this is called the deep state. This is called a fourth branch of government, an unequal branch of government that apparently doesn't have a lot of checks and balances in many cases. They got checked today, and that was awesome. If I had to guess, they're going to come back as brazen as they ever have before because this is just what they do. This is what insanity does, is just keeps banging your head against the same inanimate object, just hoping you can change something, and all you're doing is knocking yourself silly. But they'll probably double down. And we're getting more gun control in Michigan soon here, and I think it's going to pass in direct response to this. But I digress. Administrative Procedures Act that says as long as you go through the proper procedure, this administrative state, bureaucracy that doesn't even exist in the Constitution, in my opinion, and I think yours too, right, shouldn't even be allowed to exist in the United States of America. But where we are right now, this does exist, and it's prevalent, and I believe it's way more powerful than we even know, and we're paying attention more than 99.9999% of the public, because that's how we get here, is by all these so-called good people doing nothing. And I'm starting to change my view on that. Let me know if I should change my view, guys. I'm always trying to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. But the old saying, evil prevails when good men do nothing. Well, how good are they if they don't do anything? I'm starting to wonder if we just don't have that many good people left anymore. Have you thought about that? I think that's why we find ourselves in the shape we're in. So the Supreme Court comes through after, obviously, this violated everything. Congress has long delegated. The Constitution literally says Congress makes law. And they have delegated their authorities down to bureaucracy, where it's like, well, you get to do an interpretation and a reinterpretation of the interpretation. And subsection S, clause 2, subsection 3, subsection, parentheses Q, JS, J period. And sometimes it's capitalized and sometimes it's not. But you have to know how to speak Latin to know, like, well, that's a capital J and that's a lowercase j. And that means, like, that's how long the titles of these rules are. And it's a rule promulgated on a previous promulgation, which was a promulgation of a promulgation. And by the time you're done, you find yourself sitting there saying things like, I'll lead an effective strategy to mobilize, national pressure. And that's the leader of the so-called free world right now, who we're literally losing our petrodollar as we speak. You can ask Saudi Arabia about that. You can ask BRICS about that. You can ask Russia and China about that. But I digress. You're literally sitting there and you're like, there's a rule promulgated upon a rule, upon a rule, upon a rule, and it's all nuts. And Clarence Thomas and his 5 of his colleagues did just cuff the ATF right in the old kisser today. And that was awesome. So I am in like such a good mood about the fact that it's like, no. Look, the smart people in life, people just like me and people just like you that like knew all along that this wasn't a machine gun, and we knew that only Congress is supposed to make laws, and we knew that the ATF was like completely and utterly rogue. Yeah, we get to smile a little bit right now and be like, I told you so. What's happening, Lori DeVries? Nice to see you. But you're sitting there thinking, hold on a minute. It's not a machine gun. But why does that even matter? Look, this is good news today, guys. And we need to take our good news and use positive energy, and then we need to do exactly what the left does. We need to do exactly what the other side does. Because here's what they do. In Michigan, they say, well, now we have this universal background check registration licensing scheme. Registration has always led to confiscation. So this is the beginning of a confiscation of your firearms in Michigan. Safe storage, safe for the criminal, because they come in cock-locked, ready to rock. Glass breaks in the middle of the night. When seconds matter, police are only minutes away. And that's why you know you're your own first responder. That's why you have a gun by your bedside, whatever. Children in the home, children might be in the home, lock it up. Or you could become responsible if something bad happens. That passed in Michigan as well. Red flag laws. These are the most illegal and unconstitutional of all. They say take the guns first, then due process, which is literally no due process at all. Zip, zilch, none. It violates the Second Amendment. It violates the Fourth, Fifth, probably the Third, because that's when the soldiers start being quartered once they get rid of all the rest. If you go back to the Crown, that the United States sparked its revolution against. The 14th Amendment, it just literally nullifies the whole United States of America and its founding documents. That passed. And you know what they said after that? They said this is just the start. So I actually have a very positive message tonight, even though there's going to be a little complaining in there, because look, here's the recipe of success. Politics always has been and currently is downstream from culture. The left has been able to win certain parts of the culture war where they say, here's our goal. We'll do anything and everything to make it happen. And they just keep pressing on. 3 major gun control bills, packages. It was dozens of bills. 3 major packages passed my home state of Michigan last year and are now law. And they weren't happy with that because they're never happy with that. They said, now we need to ban more. They said, we're just getting started. This is just the beginning. I want us to take the positive energy we have here and say, this is awesome, check. Now, can anyone do this? I just want to make sure you guys are following me here. We can say in our left hand, awesome, ATF just got smacked right in the teeth by Clarence Thomas. And this is completely awesome, a lot of this. But then in our other hand say, but it's not good enough. We're not done yet. Now we need to get rid of this argument that we shouldn't even be having. Like, why are machine guns, quote, illegal? Because the Second Amendment doesn't say shall not be infringed unless it's a machine gun. It doesn't say shall not be infringed unless it's a weapon of war. Weapons of war, modern weapons of war at that time, and as long as the United States would be a country, which would include now, if we're still a country at all, right? They wanted us to have the most modern armament. the worst fear of the founding fathers. One of their top worst fears. You can read it in all of their early writings. Do some research. It's actually fun to read it back when smart people actually ran our government. It was a beautiful thing. Okay. Beautiful thing. But one of their worst fears is that we would even have a standing army in times of peace. We the people. The people's militia was supposed to be able to handle local disputes, law and order according to the Constitution. There were no police when this. There was no policeman. There were no city police. Nothing like that. There were no state police when this country was founded. Actually, the sheriff, that's a slightly different thing. But we were supposed to govern our own and patrol our own and protect our own country from enemies, foreign and domestic. And that's what a government would be if it was supposed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's why they say in the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson so eloquently wrote, all men are created equal, and they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then it goes on to say that governments would be instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And we've gotten ourselves so thick with bureaucracy and so thick with semantics and pedantics and subsection this of, when you even see stuff like this, like pursuant to 26 USC, and then that little double S symbol that only fancy people know how to pronounce, 5845 section B, like the fact that we even have one US code left at all means I'd like to see us be like, dude, huge victory today, but we haven't even got started yet. This is just the beginning. We need to literally repeal the National Firearms Act. And we need to create a culture in this country that wants to repeal the whole NFA of 1934, because even our most conservative justices are still talking about how they want to uphold the machine gun ban. And at least one of them came in and said that he actually wants to ban bump stocks. How many of you have had this whole document read to you? I know there's been a lot of people that were reading this online earlier today, and I read quite a bit of it, and it's very, very technical in nature. Like, they literally go through here. This is Clarence Thomas and his 4 colleagues that agree with this exact majority opinion. Then Samuel Alito actually did something a little bit different. And make sure you guys give this video a thumbs up. All of you watching on replay, all of you that are live, because I have to call out Justice Samuel Alito a little bit. Maybe you guys will agree with me after I do. And he's considered one of the most conservative Supreme Court justices. He is. But I think he needs called out a little bit right now because, look, the left, when they make a ruling, when they make a gun control law, they just bulldoze. They get completely what they want, then they just keep going for more. We need to keep going for what we want and keep wanting more. But for some reason, there's just something real. They say for me not to say words like this. I like to keep this very family friendly. So I won't say the word conservatives are cucked. I won't say that, but they kind of actually are. So, like, this is a massive victory, and it is. But Samuel Alito, in his opinion, I'm reading this, and I'm like, oh, this must be the Jumanji. And I'm like, this is Samuel Alito? So I'm going to read a little bit of how this starts because they're talking about the National Firearms Act. I hope there's a time. I hope I can live long enough to see a day where they're no longer talking about the National Firearms Act of 1934, because I don't know why we can't just go by Marbury v. Madison precedent, which says all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are void. To me, the Supreme Court already decided all of these unconstitutional laws were void, about 221 years ago or so-ish. But here we are. And we're still talking about this National Firearms Act. Now, one more time, because I am like giving you guys dueling narratives, not to confuse you or sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, because they're both actually true simultaneously. So this getting swatted down, the bump stock ban, this is huge, okay? Because these other rules are falling very quickly, and they're going to fall in accordance to the way this fell, while actually not really upholding the Second Amendment at all. But I get it. You take your victories where you can and how you can, I guess. And let's just be honest with ourselves. We the people, not literally me and you. Like, you guys are all cool as heck, or else I wouldn't even be on here, because I like to hang out with cool people. Duh. But it's like, with how apathetic and lazy and just out and out dumb we the people, there's like 350 million of us here, tens of millions, more than that actually, that we don't know who they are. They're not sending us their best, guys. We're getting invaded at our border, and we all know it. But I guess we should be happy just to get what we can at this point. So we'll take that as a victory. And it is a victory. But it cites here, Justice Thomas delivered the opinion of the court. Congress has long restricted access to, quote, machine guns, a category of firearms defined by the ability to shoot automatically more than one shot. Huge victory, guys, but, I mean, they put butts in here, so I'm going to. But why do we start off a huge Second Amendment victory with reaffirming? This is like right here, see? This is the opinion of the court. And this is one of the biggest, quote, Second Amendment victories we've had, like, in a long time. But they literally start off by saying, well, this is just the basis of things. Look, Congress has long restricted access to machine guns. Man, that's why a guy like me would never get nominated to the Supreme Court. If I was on the Supreme Court, my Latin's not good. I might not be able to know how to, like, pronounce jurisprudence properly, and I might not, like, know to write at all afterwards, but I get, like, my clerks and scribes to get the legalese right. I would say, look, guys, this is insane. Because first of all, the bump stock's not a machine gun. And second of all, a machine gun is, like, completely and utterly protected by the Second Amendment. So why are we here? The National Firearms Act is hereby unconstitutional and repealed, and then we don't have to talk about bump stocks anymore. That's the opinion I would have written. But here's what we got today. Congress has long restricted access to machine guns. Now, that's interesting because in the Bruin case, they said if something had history and tradition, it had to go back to like 1791 or roundabouts there. So it gets me a little bit perturbed that now they're saying Congress has long restricted machine guns. But wait a minute. Clarence Thomas himself and the majority of the Supreme Court in the Bruin decision said the only gun control laws that would be constitutional are ones that happened long ago at the founding of the country. This National Firearms Act was almost like 100 years after the United States of America was already essentially over in a way. I mean, if you study the, quote, Civil War, that's what we call it. At the time, it wasn't called that, but Abraham Lincoln basically destroyed the United States of America and started the supreme power of the federal government. Just saying. But I don't like how they concede that. Has long restricted machine guns by a single function of the trigger. Semi-automatic firearms, which require shooters to re-engage the trigger for every shot, are not machine guns. This case asks whether a bump stock, an accessory for a semi-automatic rifle that allows the shooter to rapidly re-engage the trigger, parentheses, and therefore achieve a high rate of fire, converts the rifle into a machine gun. We hold that it does not, and therefore affirm. Now, this is a good thing because if you remember, Jumanji was trying to establish a rate of fire test, whether something would be a machine gun. That would have been the slipperiest slope ever. So this was a huge victory, meaning the ATF, their rule got swatted down. Follow state laws, no legal advice, but if you have them, put them on. They're good to go. Not legal advice because we do have state laws, and these are going to be banned in Michigan soon. I'll get to that in just a minute. Under the National Firearms Act of 1934, a machine gun is any weapon which shoots, is designed to shoot, or can be readily restored to shoot automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. That's subsection 5845, parentheses B. The statutory definition also includes any part designed and intended for use in converting a weapon into a machine gun. More Latin, I guess, like I bid, whatever. I wish they'd speak more English, but whatever. With a machine gun, a shooter can fire multiple times or even continuously by enacting the trigger only once. This capability distinguishes a machine gun from a semi-automatic firearm. Okay, so he's going to go through now for a really, really long time and just keep talking about how a bump stock is not a machine gun and how it physically interacts with the trigger, how the person operating the firearm has to put the constant pressure on the forend. And he does a very studious job of doing that. Now, let's continue to this next part. And this is where it gets kind of interesting to me. The question in this case is whether a bump stock transforms a semi-automatic firearm into a machine gun as defined by 5845B. For many years, the ATF took the position that semi-automatic rifles equipped with bump stocks were not machine guns under the statute. That was back when the former vice president was the vice president, right? On more than 10 separate occasions over several administrations, ATF consistently concluded that rifles equipped with bump stocks cannot, quote, automatically fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. See Appendix 16-68. In April 2017, for example, ATF explained that a rifle equipped with a bump stock does not operate automatically because forward pressure must be applied with the support hand to the forward handguard, and because the shooter slides the rifle forward in the stock to fire each shot, each succeeding shot fires with a single trigger function. That's what the ATF had said 10 times. ATF abruptly reversed course in response to a mass shooting in Las Vegas, Nevada. In October 2017, a gunman, I will say allegedly, that's me adding that into his words, allegedly, fired on a crowd attending an outdoor music festival in Las Vegas. Like, I think something happened there, guys, for whoever's watching on YouTube. I've just never seen any evidence. They've never shown the bump stocks. I'm just saying, they've never shown the bump stocks from the crime scene. Did something happen there that day? Yes. Don't mince my words. But was it the bump stock? I'd like to see the evidence on that. And what I heard when you replay it, no. Doesn't sound like one either, but I digress. Had a crowd attending an outdoor music festival in Las Vegas, killing 58 people and wounding over 500 more. The gunman equipped his weapons with bump stocks, which allowed him to fire hundreds of rounds in a matter of minutes. The tragedy created tremendous political pressure to outlaw bump stocks nationwide. Within days, members of Congress proposed bills to ban bump stocks and other devices designed ... to accelerate the rate of fire of a semi-automatic rifle. He goes on to list different bills that were proposed in 2017. By the way, we're going to show you a funny tweet from the NRA in a few minutes. The NRA supported all this, just so you know, banning bump stocks. None of these bills became law. Similar proposals in the intervening years have also stalled. See bills in 2023, another one in 2023, and one in 2021. While the first wave of bills were pending, ATF began considering whether to reinterpret the statute's definition of machine gun to include bump stocks and proposed a rule that would amend its regulations to, quote, clarify that bump stocks are machine guns. 83 Fed Reg 1342, parentheses 2018. ATF about face drew criticism from some observers, including those who agreed that bump stocks should be banned. Senator Feinstein, for example, warned that ATF lacks statutory authority to prohibit bump stocks, explaining that the proposed regulation hinge on a dubious analysis and that the, quote, gun lobby and manufacturers would have a field day with ATF's reasoning in court. Statement on regulation to ban bump stocks. She asserted that legislation is the only way to ban bump stocks. ATF issued its final rule in 2018. 83 Fed Reg 66514. The agency's earlier regulations simply restated 5845B statutory definition. The final rule amended those regulations by adding the following language, and it goes through the rule. Now, so they're basically going through saying Congress could have passed laws then, but they didn't. See, you're going to find if you read all of this, and I'm not going to read it all for you because that might get a little boring, but it's in here, and I haven't heard all of it read yet online. Maybe it has been. I was just really busy today and didn't get a chance, but I think they still want bump stocks banned. They just want it banned by lawmakers rather than the ATF. How do you guys feel about that? See, I remember in Michigan what was happening. Lori DeVries will tell you all about it, and our good friend Catherine Henry. There was a big argument whether the health department could tread on your natural God-given rights for things like fresh air, freedom of association, the right to peaceably assemble, the right to just live your life. There was a big argument between whether the legislature had the right to completely ban all your liberties or whether MDHHS did. And the quote good guys, the Republican majorities at that time of the House and Senate, see, here's why people lose sometimes. Maybe because the Republican majorities in the Michigan House and Senate have really, really sucked for a long time. Maybe, what would I know, even though I'm pretty sure I'm right, maybe that's why it happens. Because too many conservatives, Republicans, completely and utterly politically homeless people like me that don't agree with any of the parties, even like the super obscure ones, I just want to go by the Constitution, and there's not really a home for somebody like me, except for hanging out with good people like you. But you often find where it's like, no, our tribe gets to ban the plebes, the peasants, natural God-given rights, and the other side's like, no, we're allowed to do it. No, we're allowed to do it. And much of what I'm going to read in here, and I'm not going to read it to you, but much of what I have read in here, I should say, is there's a big argument whether the ATF have the authority to do this or not, and whether they physically are machine guns or not. But it also makes it pretty darn clear that in the opinion of the majority, the ones that are the good guys, where we have this major victory today, they do believe bump stocks could be banned. It would just have to be Congress that bans it. Now hold on a minute. What's the difference? Okay. Would you like to drink a thing of cyanide or hemlock? Hey, we left you a choice here. No. But they're both highly acutely toxic. Like, no, don't touch either one of them. I see some of that in here. Has anyone read any of this? And if so, did you read any of that? Where it's like, hold on, if bump stocks needed to be banned, they need it banned by Congress. And I'm like, whoa. The NFA, a long-held rule, a long-held law that needs to be affirmed and upheld. But by the way, just the procedure they did it by. And again, I have to call a spade a spade. Thomas did an excellent job literally proving why the bump stock is not a machine gun. And there's graphics and there's illustrations of physically how it works. Man did an impeccable job of his homework. He's literally proven in here beyond any reasonable doubt to anybody. I have to give him that this physically is not a machine gun. And we always knew it wasn't a machine gun. And he talks about the position of the person's finger and the way they have to have that constant forward action. And it just goes on and on. Like, clearly the man's bright and knew exactly what he was talking about here. But I don't see anything anywhere in this ruling that's like, oh, and by the way, even if it was a machine gun, like, that should be illegal too. I hope this isn't the case, but this, along with the Heller decision, may have cemented in the NFA even longer, actually. So, Section C, this is near the end. And I'm going to read you what Alito, which is considered, they say, probably the second most conservative. I'm going to read what he said, and then you guys can kind of decide. Let's read subsection C. But before I do, I want to read a couple of these super chats because I appreciate those of you who help financially support the channel. ADXR 920 with a super chat and a channel member. Thank you. He says the dissent mentions ARs are commonly used. That's good for us looking forward. I'm going to be reading that in just a few minutes. It is. It is. It is good for us. Am I just too curmudgeon, guys? I'm literally just like, shall not be infringed, not 1 millimeter, not 1 centimeter, not 1 inch. But I'm not even happy with the common use test at all that Heller has set up. And then Bruin reaffirmed. It's like, dude, I don't care if it's in common use. If there was one specimen of one machine gun out there that I was the only one in the whole world that owned, shall not be infringed covers that too. So you're right. In the times we're in, where we're at, after the long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably, we've been reduced to a design that's almost absolute despotism. So you're right. Under the despotism we live under, that we gleefully think is okay, and not you ADXR, but just we the people generically, all of the NPCs, all of the people that, quite frankly, don't even deserve freedom at all, probably, right? We have been reduced to design under such absolute despotism at this point that we are happy with little scraps like, well, this is in common use, so I can still own it. So huge victory. You're completely right. I just can't stand the common use test. Patrick Fellers, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it, man. And a channel member. He says the data already shows that pro-2A cities and states have less violent crime than heavily restricted. Oh, I completely agree. Numbers don't lie. Restrictions do nothing. Yes. And my friend John Lott, who I hung out with last year in real life, he wrote a book called More Guns, Less Crime. He's the premier statistician on the Second Amendment in the whole country. Not even really debatable. And he wrote an excellent book talking about that exact topic. Marco Polo, who's a channel member and a super chat. Thanks, Marco. He said, ATF got smacked. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And I'm very happy about that. Section C here, abandoning the text. ATF and the dissent attempt to shore up their position by relying on the presumption against ineffectiveness. The presumption weighs against interpretations of a statute that would render the law in a great measure nugatory and enable offenders to elude its provisions in the most easy manner. It is a modest corollary to the common sense proposition that Congress presumably does not enact useless laws. And that cites a Justice Scalia opinion. Well, look, he's not technically wrong there. Congress doesn't enact useless laws. All of the laws have some type of agenda, and the agenda is usually not to our advantage anymore, not at all. But Congress most definitely. So they might not be useless. They serve an agenda, a world order. They serve to, in most cases nowadays, completely and utterly want to tear down and destroy the Constitution. But Congress does pass unconstitutional laws frequently and often. And if we fast forward to nowadays, probably almost all of them are unconstitutional. Now, I'm happy that all my friends are happy about this. Like, look, I'm happy about this ruling. And I'm going to read all of this chat, so I may be totally off on this, but I'm starting to fear I'm about the only one out there that as happy as I am, I'm kind of actually pissed about this too. Because they're reaffirming the National Firearms Act as, well, if it was a machine gun, of course it could be banned. If Congress wanted to ban bump stocks, Congress could do it. It's like, well, wait a minute, though. Congress makes law, but the Constitution says that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And the Supreme Court in 1803 said all laws repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Now, I know some of my friends disagree with me that my opinion's wrong on this, but I'm not really trying to cite an opinion at all. Like, the Constitution literally says this. Like, I cite the words of the Second Amendment every single show. That's literally what it says. It's not my opinion that it says it. It actually says it. Marbury v. Madison. It's also not my opinion, but they literally said all laws repugnant to the Constitution are void. So, major victory, but there's still yet again, like the major victory we had in Heller, the major victory we had in Bruin. They still keep like just reiterating over and over again But if it's an actual machine gun, that's still fine to be banned. Now, lucky for us, the ATF said the bump stock was a machine gun. And if you have a brain, you know it's not. And Clarence Thomas and his colleagues did an excellent job literally proving that. Great news. We'll see. I hope in my lifetime that this is just, look, maybe sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. Maybe they're playing, this is no longer 2D chess to AEDU. This is 3D chess, maybe. Maybe it's 4D chess. Maybe it's 5D Chinese checkers. Maybe you're just sitting there playing checkers with a pigeon. He's just strutting all over the place, knocking the pieces around, pooping on the board and cooing because in his mind he knows he won. I don't know. And again, awesome news because the methodology they use to promulgate all of these subsequent rules since the Trump administration, a lot of that house of cards is getting real weak and it's falling as we speak. Judge Reed O'Connor just vacated the pistol brace rule in Texas. Awesome. Why is there, though, that every time we get a little victory, there's always that tinge of defeat in it? And I'm hoping someone can actually answer it. If not, I'm trying to provide food for thought because I don't know that I have the exact answer right now, so I don't expect you would instantly either. But it's like, why is it even them where it's like, well, if it was truly a short barrel rifle, the one like, yeah, you would have to get a tax stamp for that. But hold on. Huge victory because pistol braces are not stocks, so therefore it doesn't matter the barrel length anymore. That rule's been vacated, guys. Huge victory, but it still like upholds and reaffirms that it would be okay to have to buy a tax stamp and give up your fingerprints and fill out paperwork and be on a registry and not be able to cross state lines with NFA items without a permission slip. You do know that, right? Like, if you buy a tax stamp, you're paying to exercise your natural God-given right, which means it's no longer a right. It's something that you're begging for permission for. You're paying a tax. May it please the crown, as long as you pay your tax, plebe. It just reminds me of all that, right? That's the whole NFA for me. Now, when we win on pistol braces, it still affirms, though, that short-barreled rifles are okay. I wish once in a while we could win how the left wins, where it's like, look, bump stocks aren't machine guns. Are you serious? You're ridiculous. And he could have typed the 30 pages here that proves that they're not machine guns, and that's great. But why can't we have like the last paragraph that says, oh, and by the way, machine guns, that can't be banned under shall not be infringed. Machine guns hereby have been declared the NFA, right? And its mention of machine guns has now also been declared unconstitutional. So we hereby vacate. It's so ordered that they affirm the judgment of the Court of Appeals. And we also affirm that the whole National Firearms Act is hereby rescinded. See, here's the thing. The liberals on the court, so-called. I'm using air quotes because they like to all be defined as something. They were not only trying to make machine gun or bump stocks machine guns, but they were also trying to go further and establish a rate of fire test. So this is a huge victory that we didn't get that. Okay. Queen Moonbeam, what's happening? She says that's absurd. Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah. I mean, she Queen Moonbeam, who I know in real life, she has common sense. She's a smart lady. So it doesn't surprise me that you would say something that smart. But the left tried to make it where it not only made bump stocks machine guns, but also was going to establish a rate of fire test. Where if you like shot your semi-auto too fast, that would be considered a machine gun too. So see if you can follow my logic here, because I'm having a hard time following it because this is one of those like kind of weird topics. So the left not only wanted to make us lose and keep bump stocks and all of these other rules that have been promulgated banned, but they wanted to go further with it and say, but by the way, now we're going to snatch up. This is our chance. That's what Jumanji was saying, I heard the oral arguments. She's like, this is our chance to now scoop up all these semi-autos and make those machine guns too. And they tried. They just lost 6-3 in the final vote. What if the conservatives did the same thing they did, but in the inverse, and said, this is our chance. Not only are we going to smack down the ATF's rulemaking and call out how they violated all this, but this is our perfect opportunity to repeal all of, which would be perfect, or better than nothing, part of the NFA. See, if a conservative could think like a leftist, if a so-called Republican could think a little more like a Democrat, now I don't mean with their evil, twisted, antithetical to the Constitution ideologies, and I'm not even implying for half a second that most Republicans or so-called conservatives love this country at all. Trust me, I'm not doing that. I'm fully aware we have tons of enemies on both sides. But what I'm saying is if there was a true constitutional spirit out there, why don't they use the same strategies to tear down things that are antithetical to the Constitution as the other side uses to tear down the Constitution itself? And that would be like a huge, huge victory for me. So I was super happy when I heard about the news, and I still am. Like, I really, really am. Promise you I am. But the more I read this, they're just kind of just reiterating over and over again that, like, but it's still fine, like, that a machine gun is, look, it's essentially banned unless you're rich and you can afford a pre-May of 1986 transferable. So it's banned unless you're rich. You know what I'm saying? Queen Moonbeam, nice to see you. I did get some text messages from you, and I need to respond. I've been running so ragged working this week. I haven't responded to anybody all week, but I did see the nice pictures you sent me, so thank you. I'm going to read just a little bit more here. Then we're going to read what Alito said. Then we're going to talk about the NRA. And then we're going to talk about a Michigan gun control law, because that's coming. Because there was a victory here, now we get to lose more in Michigan, because Michigan is a very, very tyrannical controlled government. I will say that. They say a lot more than that, but I do like to keep this family friendly. The dissent's additional argument for applying the presumption against ineffectiveness fails on its own terms. To argue that our interpretation makes far less effective, the dissent highlights that a shooter with a bump stock equipped rifle can achieve a rate of fire that rivals traditional machine guns. But the dissent elsewhere acknowledges that a shooter can do the same with an unmodified semi-automatic rifle using the manual bump firing technique. The dissent, and these are the ones that lost. These are the ones that wanted to establish this rate of fire test, right? This is interesting. The dissent thus fails to prove that our reading makes 5845B far less effective, much less ineffective, as is required to invoke the presumption. In any event, Congress could have linked, this is so sad that I have to read this. In any event, Congress could have linked the definition of the machine gun to a weapon's rate of fire, as the dissent would prefer. But it instead enacted a statute that turns on whether a weapon can be fired more than one shot automatically by a single function of the trigger. And it is never our job to rewrite statutory text under the banner of speculation about what Congress might have done. Now, that's a small little part, and it's right before the really good news. At the very end, it says, for the foregoing reasons, we affirm the judgment of the Court of Appeals. And they're talking about the Court of Appeals that said bump stocks are not machine guns. Let me read this again real quick. In any event, so he's saying Congress could have done this, and I'm like, no, am I the only one that's read the darn Second Amendment? I know you guys have. Am I the only one? Like, dude, I don't matter. None of us matter. Like, anyone that's watching this stream, we have no power. We don't matter. Like, somebody wearing a robe that sits high on Capitol Hill with large columns in front of the building. I wish somebody that actually had power that matter. Look, we matter more if we could ever just get our heads out of our butts and have a government that operates at the consent of the governed. But we, the people, don't matter much at all, because 99.99% of your fellow Americans are lazy, and they deserve the chains that are going to bind all of them. That's my honest opinion, because I've watched how lazy, pathetic, and lethargic most Americans are. But This is a Supreme Court justice, the most conservative one we have, actually saying, in any event, Congress could have linked the definition of machine gun to a weapons rate of fire, as the dissent would prefer. Congress could say all they want, rate of fire is a machine gun, but Congress does not have the authority in the United States Constitution to have any laws that infringe on machine guns at all. Like none. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I don't want to bore you. This is a long document. You can look it up yourself if you want to read it. I didn't leave a link to it in the description, but I did leave some awesome links down there for some awesome deals, which I will share with you to get you guys in a good mood again, because we are going to read the Justice Alito concurring opinion. Infinity targets. I know some of you guys have their targets, and they are like really, really nice. This is a self-healing rubber where you can shoot like 110 rounds in the same square inch. Excellent warranty. They have a Father's Day sale. So happy Father's Day to everybody, by the way, coming up here in 2 days. 15% off. The link and the code are down there in the description. That code is going to expire on the 16th, so you don't have much time. Definitely check that out. Using the code will help you save, and will also help the channel a little bit too. And I do highly recommend, and any of you guys who use Infinity targets, chime in the chat and let people know what you think, because it's a good deal and you can save some good money right now. Also, make sure you check out my link to Locals. It's a different site, censorship free. I will be doing a live stream there tomorrow night. And also check out Myriad Social if you want to see that event with me and State Representative candidate Josh Powell, as well as a post about this stuff right here. Okay, that's good, and I'm happy, and I'm getting more, if you know what I mean. Go to Myriad Social. I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to show you guys something that Twitter did to me a little bit ago. Like, what the heck, right? This is supposed to be a censorship-free site, but I don't know. Maybe it's a glitch. You guys can tell me. Hopefully it's just a glitch. But I'll show you some tweets I made today, and one of them is hard for me to show you because it's not there anymore. So Justice Alito wrote a concurring opinion. So look, here's basically how this works. The majority opinion. So this was a 6-3 decision to end the ATF's bump stock ban. Good night, Laurie. What's up, Johnny 1982? How you doing, man? Wild Bill, Ohio. Nice to see you. Dale Smith, what's up, man? Okay. 6-3. The 6 quote conservative justices. None of them are conservative enough for me. I'm like old school conservative, guys. I'm literally like, look, read what the Constitution says. The first 10 amendments, everything after the first 10 amendments has done nothing but destroy our country. Read them. Pick your favorite one you like after the 10th Amendment. I can't stand any of them. I believe they're all antithetical to the founding. But so 6-3 said bump stocks are not machine guns, but 5 of them literally just signed on exactly word for word to what Clarence Thomas said. Now, Alito concurred, and he agreed with the outcome, so he voted with the majority, but he had something else to add. And I'm going to read this. It's really short and see what you guys think. And I literally haven't seen anybody read this part yet. But I did work all day, so they may have, and shout out to them if they did. Justice Alito concurring. I join the opinion of the court because there is simply no other way to read the statutory language. There can be little doubt that the Congress that enacted 26 U.S.C. 5545B would not have seen any material difference between a machine gun and a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock. Wait a minute. He said he believes that Congress in 1934 would not have seen any material difference between a bump stock and a machine gun. That's what Alito said. But the statutory text is clear, and we must follow it. You have to follow the text? Hold on a minute. Just listen to this. This is supposedly, some people say the most conservative, other people say the second most conservative Supreme Court justice we have. He just said, but the statutory text. Now, just so you guys know what this statute is, just to make sure, in case anyone just joined or you were sleeping earlier, This is the National Firearms Act. This is the NFA. So he says, but the statutory text is clear and we must follow it. He says they must follow the National Firearms Act. I thought that the justices have to judge whether something's constitutional or not, because the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And when the Constitution says shall not be infringed, this supposedly most conservative justice we have, he never mentions anything about him having to follow the Second Amendment. He says the statute, that's a law, text is clear and we must follow it. He must follow the National Firearms Act, exactly what it says. I hope somebody on replay gets this, because I keep asking the chat who's live, and shout out to all of you. If anyone gets what I'm actually talking about here, and so far, I haven't seen anyone in a while that I'll keep reading. It's probably best just to come on here and read the first few pages of this to everybody. That seems to be the status quo. But when I read this, I'm like, no, I'm going to call this out. But the statutory text is clear and we must follow it. The Second Amendment's pretty darn clear, too. The horrible shooting spree in Las Vegas in 2017 did not change the statutory text or its meaning. That event demonstrated that a semi-automatic rifle with a bump stock can have the same lethal effect as a machine gun. And it thus strengthened the case for amending 5845B. So he's saying he wanted more gun control from this. But an event that highlights the need to amend a law does not itself change the law's meaning. And if you thought I wasn't telling you the truth, let me read what the man himself said at the end. There is a simple remedy for this disparate treatment of bump stocks and machine guns. Congress can amend the law, and perhaps would have done so already if ATF had stuck with its earlier interpretation. Now that the situation is clear, Congress can act. So Justice Alito agreed, because he says he only has to follow the National Firearms Act. That's the statute. He only follows gun control statutes, doesn't mention the Constitution anywhere. And then he says, now that the situation is clear, Congress can act. And I might be reading between the lines a little bit, but this whole opinion he wrote says nothing other than he hopes Congress will act. He hopes Congress would have banned bump stocks a long time ago, and he loves the National Firearms Act. So huge victory, guys, huge victory, but we see that some of the most conservative justices love the National Firearms Act, and they don't follow the Constitution to the letter of the law. They follow gun control statutes. But the statutory text is clear, and we must follow it. And the Second Amendment, that a third grader, right? What's up, Gail? How you doing? Former teacher. Look, third graders can understand things like shall not be infringed. Third graders can understand things like the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Big victory today, guys. Huge victory. I'm very excited. I see all these other ATF rules falling like a house of cards. But and I am happy. I truly am. But I can't be 100% happy, because we're watching conservative justices just reaffirming over and over again. It must have been reaffirmed a dozen times. If it was a machine gun, it could have been. The National Firearms Act is the supreme law of the land. Congress could have made a law, and they should make one right now, but since they didn't, bump stocks are not machine guns, and that's what the conservatives wrote. That's what the conservatives wrote. Do you guys remember when they called him the Lion of the Second Amendment? The late, great, ladies and gentlemen, the late, great Antonin Scalia in the Heller case said, well, the Second Amendment doesn't protect certain particularly dangerous and unusual weapons, and any weapon that's classified pursuant to the National Firearms Act isn't covered by the Second Amendment at all. That's literally the majority opinion from, as all of my pro Second Amendment channel friends would say, the greatest Supreme Court justice we've ever had. Now look, elections do have consequences. And the way our elections are run, the way, how do I word this? The way things are counted. I'll just go back to a news guard certified source. Time Magazine. You listen in Susan Wiki, and all the employees at YouTube, listen closely. I've got a story to tell that's completely within YouTube terms. Time Magazine, which is a news guard certified source, the current former vice president is the most popular and the most fortified of all time. I understand, guys. Fortifications have consequences. Wagons full of stuff in the middle of the night. They called it the TCF Center. Middle of the night, wagons full of stuff. That has consequences. I get it. I know why a lot of people feel disenfranchised. I understand that. But elections do have consequences. And here's the thing. Most of the action actually happens on the state law. 90% of the things that will affect your day-to-day life are actually in your home state. So where we get this victory from conservatives that still want to uphold the NFA and still want to ban them as long as Congress passes the law, huge victories like this we get on the national level. Dude, the ink wasn't even drying on this yet. We're going to come over here to Twitter. I'm dead naming it on purpose because I think they hid one of my posts. That's all right. I'll post that on myriad.social because they don't want to, and they couldn't even ban my post if they wanted to. Let me come over here to this. By the way, you can follow me on X if that's what you're into. Nobody ever likes my stuff over here, hardly at all. So I'd probably waste my time even being on here. But hey, it's nice because you can retweet. So if you look at what I posted, here's something where I was calling out John Cornyn, and I'm keeping this right here pinned to the top. This was the Safer Communities Act, which has led to a lot of this that we're dealing with. Now, it looks like my newest tweet was an hour ago. Okay. I hope it shows up, and it was just like a computer glitch. Nope, that's it. But I made another tweet in the meantime, and it's gone. And the only reason why, like I said, like nobody really follows me over here. Nobody ever comments on my stuff. A few of you do. Shout out to the one or two of you that like literally won. Nope, zero likes on this one. But whatever. I posted it here because you can retweet. Notifications. Shout out to Lucy, if she's watching, liked my post. If it wasn't for Lucy liking this post, I wouldn't even see my post. So tell me, all of you X gurus. I'm on my homepage of X. I hit profile, right? It gives my little blurb. It shows the pinned one. And then 1 hour goes my newest one. Here's the shooting event with Josh Powell, who yours truly is going to be speaking at, and looking forward to hanging out with you all. It's gone. This thing would be totally gone, except for in my notifications, my girl Lucy had my back and liked it. So by them liking it, I can actually click on it, and it's only Lucy's like. This gets no more views. It's dead in the water, completely shadow banned, in my opinion, by X. But thank you, because if Lucy didn't do this, it would have been hard for me to find this tweet again, and I wouldn't be able to show you guys what's going on right now. So I tagged my state representative, who's the best representative I know of anywhere. Look, if you guys have a good one, you have to get behind them like right now. If you don't, you need to get somebody in there who is a Second Amendment defender. If you have your favorite, that's totally fine. One of the best state reps, not only in Michigan, but like anywhere in the whole country. I know this lady very well, and she's my friend. So I tagged her to bring this to her attention. She probably won't see it because I believe X has me where I can't even see it on my own profile, so I digress. So maybe she watches, because she does watch the channel when she can. She's just really busy fighting tyranny, so she's probably not watching right now. Another direct defiance of the 2A and the SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States. We are sick and tired of state lawmakers defying the law in Michigan. The U.S. Supreme Court just declared the bump stock ban itself unconstitutional. The 2A and Michigan Constitution, Article 1, Section 6 says no gun control. We know what the Second Amendment says. The Michigan Constitution, every person has the right to keep and bear arms in defense of himself and the state. So to fight off a tyrannical government, enemies foreign and domestic, yeah, the Michigan Constitution sums it up pretty well. This is Senator. Oh, boy. People call her all kinds of things today. I told them I won't call her that. I won't call her you know what on here. This is a family-friendly channel. This is Senator Dana Polahanky. This is a real beauty. And when I say real beauty, yeah, I mean in a different kind of way. This is not good. In my opinion, this is not a good person at all. It says, I just requested a bill to ban bump stocks in Michigan. When she says request, that wasn't that she wrote her congressperson. No, this is one of the most powerful senators in the Michigan legislature. Extremely powerful person. And in my opinion, as their power increases in the Michigan Senate right now with a very narrow Democrat majority, as their power increases, any other thing that would be good attributes decreases, right? So like she's this powerful, which means anything good about her is like right down here off the camera. You can't even see it. In fact, I just had to put like a 30-foot hole on my floor. That's how low all of her attributes are. But very powerful. Requested literally means you go to the clerk and you request a bill. Like, it probably hasn't technically been filed yet because that'll take till Monday. She's filed a bump stock ban bill. And in my opinion, they're going to rush it through as fast as they can. So, huge victory. Rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. Get out my pom-poms. This happens here. It'll be banned in Michigan before you can even blink. That's all right. Never turned it in before? Will I turn it in if there's a Michigan ban? That's the question. That's the question people are wondering. Will he turn it in this time? Did he turn it in before? Would you guys turn stuff in? This is Senator Polahanky. She's basically saying the bump stock ban, it's as good as done. I think the Democrats are going to try to shove this through on party lines. And that's why I'm urging my representative, Jamie Thompson, and I'm going to be getting on the horn with Joe Bellino, my senator, and I want you guys to talk to, if you have any constitutional loving representatives or senators in Michigan, because it has to pass the House and the Senate, right? Remind them that they better hold the line and vote no on this, no matter what, and they need to convince all their other Republican colleagues to vote no. Because I can see some Republicans voting for this too. I literally could. This just seems like the type of bill that would get Republicans on board. You know, we have the Republican minority leader of the Michigan House of Representatives, Matt Hall. What a shame, too. I wanted to like him a lot. I wanted to like him. Not a bad looking dude, but hey, I don't swing that way. I'm happily married, so that didn't get him any brownie points. I wanted to like him, but I couldn't like so much when he voted for gun control. I mean, I can't like that. Do you like that? We could have been friends, Matt, but not so much because you voted for gun control. Look, this happens. Look out in all of your states. I bet you a lot of your state legislators are going to be piling on to ban bump stocks by statute as fast as they can. So the Supreme Court, just think about this for 2 seconds here. The Supreme Court of the United States says this law is this ATF rule is completely unconstitutional for you to turn these into machine guns. So the highest court in the land says you can't do it, and in direct retaliation, they're all going to start doing it one after another. Well, you can't blame them going away. I mean, when Samuel Alito says you could ban this with laws and you might need to ban it right now, of course they're going to ban it. This is actually kind of sick. As great as this decision is, and as great as Clarence Thomas shredded the ATF's rule, he literally proved in here that these aren't machine guns. I can't believe Alito wrote this, but he did. Right here, one more time for any of you that just joined. But the statutory text is clear and we must follow it. This guy says he has to follow the NFA. That's what this is. Alito. This is Justice Alito. See, just so you guys. Alito says he has to follow the unconstitutional gun control laws, but apparently he doesn't have to follow the Constitution. And he says there is a simple remedy. Look, Senator Polahanky is taking Justice Alito's advice. Do you see it any other way? I mean, I can't see it any other way right now. They're going to ban these in Michigan soon. This is probably going to pass, guys. You better get on the horn quick. Because what many people say, the second most conservative justice, okay, told them what they need to do. And it's right here. I'm going to read his words. There is a simple remedy for the disparate treatment of bump stocks and machine guns. Congress can amend the law and perhaps would have done so already if ATF has stuck with its earlier interpretation. Now that the situation is clear, Congress can act. He just said Congress can act and ban this stuff right now. And Senator Polahanky said, aye, Captain, will do. Consider it requested. And consider her at the clerk's desk, duly filed, probably Monday morning, if not Tuesday. We say real beauty. She'll be putting on her beauty products all weekend. Look, these people look like a disaster. They dress like a disaster. In my opinion, these are some of the most unattractive people there are. And then when they open their mouth, you're just like, you just watch it all circle the drain. You watch the whole Constitution circle the drain. You watch your life circle the drain. You watch your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness being infringed. I mean, I suppose, though, she's just following Justice Samuel Alito. Very, very conservative Justice Samuel Alito's advice. What would it take for a Supreme Court justice to literally write down, I exercise jurisprudence over the Constitution of the United States of America. Whereas, in this said document, it declares it's the supreme law of the land. With the Second Amendment being the second time it was amended, and part of the Constitution herein, I only follow the Second Amendment, which says shall not be infringed. Will a Supreme Court justice ever say that? I hope they'll say that someday. I really do. But right now we had Justice Samuel Alito saying, but the statutory text is clear and we must follow it. I thought these guys had the ability, being a supposed third separate and equal branch of government, to nullify laws that are unconstitutional. I mean, that's what I was taught in school. Look, when I was in school, they said the rainbow is God's covenant. And it's his promise not just to Noah, but to all of you ever since and right now, that he's never going to destroy the earth by flooding it again. And in the same time period, when they taught me that was God's promise to you, and it was his covenant between him and people like me and you, they were also teaching that there's a check and balance, and the Supreme Court can check unconstitutional laws. But this justice says that he has to follow the statute. And I was always brought up learning, and I still do believe this, that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And maybe because it's so old now, but for some reason they don't like Marbury v. Madison, very early Supreme Court precedent, 1803, that says all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are void. Very interesting. I'm not sure if Justice Alito bought Michigan Senator Polahanky a drink or if she bought him one. I don't know. But I want you guys to think about this, but I also still want you to be happy and very, very energetic that the ATF's convoluted rule scheme that's all based on a house of cards, that house of cards is getting blown over as we speak. It's basically already blown over. Reed O'Connor's decision. Vacated. Now, I've talked to a few people earlier today. Brendan Boudreaux from Great Lakes Gun Rights sent me a text warning me about Polahanky. I also talked to my friend John Crump, and I'm going to show you guys something funny that he brought to my attention. All right. So we're going to go over that in just 1 second. I am going to read the chat, though, and see how many friends I have left. If you're still my friend, you understand that I'm just like a complete Second Amendment absolutist, and that is what I am. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, because I just ripped on what's supposed to be the second most conservative justice there is. Not because I don't like him, just because I don't like people that say they have to follow the NFA over the Constitution. So don't forget that thumbs up. All right. Patrick Feller's coming again with another super chat. Thanks, man. He says, more guns is also a huge buffer for not only criminals, but foreign invaders. Yes, sir. That's the foreign and domestic. What country would dare invade another country that has heavily armed civilians? Hey, they supposedly said when the top commander of Japan said, let's go to the mainland, they said, no, sir, if you do that, there'll be a gun behind every blade of grass. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true, but I've always heard it was, that actually did happen. But I do know the gun behind every blade of grass, that would have been true at that time. And for the most part, still is. Because those who choose not to arm themselves, there's one of us that might own, I don't know, dozens, hundreds, maybe you don't even count anymore, that would fill in the gaps, right? ADXR 920, channel member, and a 223 super chat. Says, this is just another bite of the elephant. I agree. How do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. And thank you for offering me the awesome opportunity to segue into, let me see which one I want to show you guys today. There we go. Speaking of 223, this is 556. This is RPM, Rockville Precision Munitions. They make tons of loadings. I have quite the assortment myself. And I have shot there 55 and 62 grain 5.56 and thoroughly enjoyed it. For more information on that, check out my locals post, where I will be making a post where you can get more information, because this is 2A EDU and you can learn stuff. And I highly suggest you do. And shout out to RPM for sending us this ammo to check out. So thank you for helping out the channel with that. Saint Vicari is a channel member for 32 months. Thank you, man. That's a long time, dude. He said, with this rule, ATF 0-1, big loss, NFA 1-0. I do see some stuff strengthening the NFA in here yet again, so my scorecard, sir, would match yours. Repeal that NFA. I hope I can live long enough. I don't need to live much longer than that. I want my daughter to be able to grow up in a world where there's no gun control. And where good people finally start standing up for themselves and saying, we've had enough. No more control on us with anything. James Kawasaki, member for 35 months. Wow, man. Thank you, all of you guys who have been hanging out this long and supporting. He says, love God, love family, love guns, and be dangerous. Look, there's a time to love and there's a time to hate. That's what the good book says. I hate tyrants. What about you guys? Dale, member for 37 months. Wow. That's a long time, man. Thank you. He says, long live our republic. Yes, sir. That's why we're here tonight. That's why we're here as long as we can be, trying to save it. Mike McClune, member for 35 months, says, Chana member. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being a member that long, Mike. Marco Polo, member for 27 months, says, I'll have a great night. Hope to see you on Locals. And I hope to see all of you guys on Locals too. John Crump News coming in. There he is. He says, hey, thanks for the super chat. I was talking to Crump on the phone earlier. He sent me I'm going to show you guys what he sent me a screenshot of in just 2 minutes here. Gail Gebber with a super sticker. Thank you, Gail. I can't post the actual sticker itself, but you guys know you can upvote these super chats in the chat, right? Like you can give them thumbs ups and stuff amongst yourselves. It's a new feature YouTube's doing. Thank you, Gail. I appreciate it. And I'm happy to see you here. And yeah, there was a time when we used to talk about this country where elementary school kids could understand it, didn't we? And now all of the greatest scholars from the Ivy Leagues, from the wherever they come from, right? The better they get with their Latin, the less they forget how to read good old-fashioned English. Ain't that the truth? Look, Steve Bannon's getting ready to go to prison. Navarro, prison. Over contempt of Congress. Just imagine that. Contempt of Congress. The Republicans in the House, they've written strongly worded letters, guys, just so you know. They've written some strongly worded letters. Yeah, they found Garland in contempt of Congress. Let's take the over and under. Let me know. Who thinks Garland? The AG is going to go to prison. I mean, contempt of Congress, that sounds like a big thing. In fact, it's so big. Steve Bannon, he's going to jail here in a couple weeks. Bannon and Navarro both. Many, many political prisoners. People are still stuck in there like in a hole, bread and water. I guess there's no more right for a person to file for a writ of habeas corpus because they're still just sitting there. Why are they there? Nobody knows, in a dark hole for something that happened on the 6th day of the first month of the year a couple years ago. Lots of political prisoners right now. Sad, isn't it? Look, I don't know what team you guys are on, who your favorite person to watch is, but whew. Peter Navarro, right? That's his first name, isn't it? Lots of names today. I get confused with when I try to read that newest Supreme Court justice's name. I go batty. I can't read it. I can't remember how to pronounce it. But Navarro and Bannon, both going to jail. A lot of them have been in jail for this. Way more that we don't even know. Contempt of Congress. It's such a big deal. Let's see what happens to the Attorney General, who was just held in contempt of Congress. I'm going to guess... I don't want to give you guys the teaser. I want you to answer for yourselves. Ron Meyer with a super sticker. Thank you. I appreciate the super sticker. And I don't get to enjoy your super stickers till after the fact because the software I use won't let me pin the actual sticker itself. But the chat does get to enjoy those. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the support. Now, let me show you what Crump, they call him Crumpy, right? My journalistic friend, John Crump News, shout out on YouTube and AmmoLand. All right, let's see here. He sent me this. Let's go back to this Twitter. Was anyone able to see my tweet? Whatever it's called. Somebody called it a twat. I'm not going to say, did anyone see my, I mean, I don't talk like that on here, but whatever the heck you call that site. There's many names for it. I was kind of looking at it earlier, like, I don't know why I can't see my own X or whatever it's called on my own screen. Maybe you guys can see it, though. All right, let's go share the old feed again. I had to find this because there was one person that liked it. Maybe I don't know how to use the old site here. So I go to profile. Okay. 2A Edu. It shows my pin post here. The one where I'm calling out the Michigan senator is not there. But here's the one that Crump sent me. Can you guys see this? Now, this is funny, okay? This is funny. And this is something we've talked about a lot on here before. Okay. Oh, Calvin, my man. We've not forgotten that here. Trust me. Trust me. See, here's the thing. You guys are lucky here. You get a rare glimpse of the actual truth and somebody's like honest opinions. And some of this stuff isn't even my opinion, right? I just like literally read it. And the Second Amendment just says what it says. But because I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not worried about my numbers. I literally like very happy with my life. I was very happy with my life before this. I'd be very happy without it. But let's not forget that I have lost like many, many subscribers for calling out Trump. Probably going to lose many more for calling out Justice Alito. I mean, trust me. You'll just see the line graph and the... But here's the kicker, though. I'll come back next week, and they'll all be back because they still like the channel. And even if they don't like the channel, they especially like me. So they'll be back. But, oh, gosh, you should... Trust me. I've called out. People have said you called out more than you should have. I'm like, that's okay, though. I'll at least sleep at night. Subscribers don't make you sleep at night, guys. But actually talking about stuff that's true and real makes you sleep quite nicely, actually. So this is, you can't make this up. This is funny, guys. This is really, really funny. So the NRA comes on here 12 hours ago. And I said, the context, the added context shows what I've been saying this whole time. NRA statement on Garland v. Cargill. Ugh, NRA. Ugh. Whew. Okay, let's read it. Trump calls me up. He's like, dude, look at this screenshot I just sent you. I'm like, I'm reading it. I'm like, ooh, reader's context added. You can't make this up. Trump's like, no, dude, keep reading it. And we're both just like, oh, dang. The Supreme Court has properly restrained executive branch agencies to their role of enforcing and not making laws. This decision will be pivotal to NRA's future challenges of ATF regulations, says, what's this guy's name? Randy Kozich. Reader added context. Readers added context. The NRA publicly supported the regulation of bump stocks. NRA leaders Wayne LaPierre and Chris Cox said, in quotes, the NRA believes that devices designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulations. And the citation's right there. And for the first time, I rated the reader's context as helpful. You can't even make this up. The NRA begged for this bump stock ban. The NRA begged to cause as much tyranny, in my opinion, as possible on we the people so they could sell our rights down the river to the machine and then get us via membership dues and the constant psycho-nagging phone calls and letters in the mail to try to purchase back a little sliver of it here and there. And that's what I believe the NRA did on this, and I believe that's what the NRA has done on many, many things. If there's a way to completely and utterly fundamentally change them, hopefully. Until then, they can go pound sand. They begged for the bump stock ban. They convinced Trump it was a good idea and that he should do it. And they literally had the balls. Look, to tweet something like this requires a listener to be dumber than the speaker. And I'm just sitting here right now like, poof. I don't know if I lost brain cells by looking at that Senator Polanyi. Not very good looking, in my opinion, at all. But it's like you look and you're like, ooh, I just lost brain cells. Now I read this and I just lost more. They literally have the audacity to come out and say the Supreme Court has properly restrained executive branch agencies to their role of enforcing and not making the law. This decision will be pivotal to NRA's future challenges of ATF regulations. Rewind. That was my rewind. I can't afford sound effects, but I do appreciate all the generous super chats and all of you who help support the channel, so I have gas money to make it here. But 4 years ago, in quotes, the NRA believes the device is designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulations. Speaking of people helping support the channel, Rudy Finney, super big thumbs up, man. If you're watching, and sincere thank you, donated a very generous Cash App, okay, during when the stream was going on last week. Those don't have a way to feed in where I can put them on my screen and thank you, but I did see that there, so thank you to all of you who have donated a little bit there, and thank you, Rudy. If you're watching, I hope you are. I sincerely appreciate that because I did see that after the stream was over last week. Look, you can't make this up. I mean, the NRA, wow. I needed a laugh. Hopefully you guys did too. That's just to the point right now where it's like, yeah. It's like half laughing and half like just whatever. Anne-Marie. What's up, Anne-Marie? She says, 2A, your sound effects are original. Love it. Well, you know, a lot of people have the fancy soundboard and stuff. I'm just sitting there hanging out with Lami. You know what I mean? Lami. That I didn't even have to pay for. I don't want to quite say some people, well, a certain somebody. She was watching last week, so I think it's past her bedtime. It's past the little girl's bedtime, but my friend Ray, who was in the chat last week, but since it's past her bedtime, We'll talk a little smack. According to her, technically, I stole Lamy. No, I wouldn't say I stole him. I would say more like was left at my shop and then refused to be given back. I mean, that's much higher moral standard, right? I wouldn't steal. I don't suggest you do it. But there is a difference between when Pillbox Bunker was the official sponsor for Lamy's half track. See? You can see the half track right there that Lamy rides in. So I didn't steal Lamy, but I couldn't really afford him either. So I was just like, he's already here. Just won't give back. You guys see the total difference, right? I mean, I'm actually kind of proving that I think I'd be eligible to be on the Supreme Court. Just think about this. Didn't steal, just acquired and refused to give back. I mean, hold on a minute, guys. Harvard's calling right now. Wait, what's this? Hold on a minute. Harvard full ride scholarship. Ooh. Full ride scholarship. They're trying to schmooze me with coming to one of the Rainbow Bright events. This case is very interesting, and I see that my friend Jane is talking to my friend Catherine Henry. Sorry, Jane. Sorry, Catherine. I don't have time to read your text. Look, all of my friends, these are beautiful women. They really are. I only hang out with people that are smart. They're all attractive. Every last one, obviously. Lamy, look. I don't have time for y'all. I'm getting, wait, what's this? Full ride scholarship from Yale? Wow. I'm going to go to the Ivy League soon and be on the United States Supreme Court. You know what's going to hook them in, right? Where they'll also give me a bridge card too. I'll get a Michigan bridge card. Senator Polahanky. She'll say, here's your bridge card. So I can go on a full ride scholarship. Don't worry, y'all need to keep working harder so you can pay for it. I'm going to go. I'm going to go to a full ride scholarship because I literally sat there and I said, I didn't steal. Your Honor, I didn't steal. It was just left here and I refused to give it back. And then I'm going to get the bridge card and all the accoutrement. I mean, these people speak in foreign languages. I'm trying. They're going to say, I'm going to say, well, hold on a minute. That depends on what the definition of the word is. Wait, what's this? Wow. Text messages exceeded? They literally, I'm getting full ride scholarships to all the Ivy Leagues right now as we speak, as fast as they can. Jane Locke, my dear, my friend, and Jane Locke is my good friend, and I like her a lot, and she knows that. But look, I don't have time for you, Jane. Senator Polahanky's offering me a bridge card as we speak, and I've got a full ride scholarship to Princeton. Half the soundboards don't work that good anyways, right? Right, Queen Moonbeam. Queen Moonbeam's out there in a good type of way, though. I mean, her name's Queen Moonbeam, right? But I like her, though. She's not boring, right? Harry says, Harry Grumley, what's happening, Harry? Nice to see you, man. He says, is, question mark? That's, ooh. What's this? I'm going to be president, too. Full ride scholarship to any Ivy League of my choice. Free bridge card. Free ride in a rainbow-colored convertible at the Pride Parade? Wow. I didn't realize I was going to become a celebrity that quick. No thanks. That's God's covenant never to flood the earth again. No thanks. All right, I'm going to take a look at the chat real quick here, guys. And I'm going to jump off because it is like lots of work to do tomorrow. Patrick Fellers with yet another super chat. Thanks, Patrick. I appreciate it, man. He says, the saddest part of our current situation is the ignorance of our people, not understanding the difference between communism and democracy. Yeah, it is sad. But I know I'm not the only one that's like, there's good things happening, and we need to take positive energy from those. And like, I was so happy all day long about this Supreme Court decision, and I am. Judge Reed O'Connor vacating. It's called vacating. Basically, the Fifth Circuit remanded it down, and he could have done a more permanent restraining order or injunction. I'm sorry, permanent injunction on the pistol brace rule. He didn't. He said, is hereby vacated. I would say there's a decent chance the pistol brace rule is dead too, because here's why. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, by the time it was heard en banc, which means all of them. Am I the only one, or is this just a little pet peeve of mine? Like, tell me, why do they have to speak Latin? It's a dead language. It's not an archaic language. It's even older than that. Why do we have to speak Latin in our court system? Is it so that normal people can understand it? I don't know. But I digress. En banc, they call it. Et al. En banc. A pluribus unum. Okay? Look, there's some wisdom in some of this, but just speak English. Or get the heck out. Like, geez, oh, Pete's, people. We have no border. Without a border, you don't have a country. And the highest justices of the land don't have very good command of English. They speak a dead language. But the en banc court said that, yeah, braces are not stocks. They're not NFA items. And they actually did come close to challenging the NFA, actually. I like the Fifth Circuit quite a bit. I mean, probably not as conservative as I would be, but hey, I'm not on the court. But I will be soon. Offers are coming in. I'll probably most likely be on the Supreme Court soon when I go to Yale, Harvard, and Princeton all concurrently for free with a bridge card from Senator Polehanki. But here's the thing. If the government goes and tries to appeal Reed O'Connor vacating of the pistol brace rule, meaning it's gone right now, there is no pistol brace rule in the whole country, they're going to have to try to win in the same Fifth Circuit that just smacked them down, that just told Reed O'Connor, you now have our guidance on how to smack them down. And then somehow if they lose and go through that again, then they'd have to go to the Supreme Court, which, whether it was for all the right reasons or all the wrong reasons, did just smack down this whole bump stock ruling. Let me know what you think. Will the government try to appeal Reed O'Connor's very, very good ruling on the pistol brace rule? I mean, they are dumb enough where they literally might appeal it, but I don't know if they will or not. I see pistol braces remaining unbanned for quite some time, hopefully forever. I want it to be where, like, forever we don't have to worry about, like, any gun control at all. That's what I really want. I'm going to read a couple more chats. And then I'm going to read something here for you. Let me move some of these papers aside because I need to go through some of my mail today. What's happening, Adam? Nice to see you, man. You take care as well. Good night, Gort. Sleep tight. Thank you, Bill Alexander. What's happening, my friend from Michigan? How you doing, man? I'll let you guys know when the bump stock ban bill comes out. I'll do like just a regular short video. It's been requested from a very influential senator in Michigan. I know that there's calls already on the federal level. Chuck Schumer, we'll see what happens with that. But in Michigan, there's already a bill been requested, which means it's literally in the process. What's happening, Carbon Spider? Nice to see you. Dude, we can't come complacent. That's the thing, man. SG 6970 just said something very smart. If you become complacent, then bad people keep coming in. Your mission doesn't end at the voting booth. Yes, sir. Here. Or sir or ma'am. You know, it just says SG 6970. You really think it's that easy? When Ben Franklin was asked at the founding of our country, sir, do we have a monarchy or a republic? He said a republic if you can keep it. A lot of men have died to try to keep it. Just to go in and vote, that's not like a big achievement. You don't really get a prize for that. That's just doing your duty as prescribed by the Constitution. And it's actually like literally the very, very least you can do. I understand, guys. Those of you just joining, go back and listen to what I said earlier. I get it. Wagons were coming in the middle of the night. I understand why people are disenchanted. I understand why you have many, many questions and concerns. I question and I'm concerned about everything you are. Trust me. I do get it. But that probably means that we're not doing enough in the rest of our lives. It probably means, now, not literally you or any of the good people I see here. You guys are some of the most active people. I know you guys are doing what you can. And if you're not, I'm giving you some friendly peer pressure and challenging you to try to do a little more. Talk to people in your hometown. Talk to people in your church, at work, your neighbors, your friends, your family. I know the rules are you can never talk religion and you can never talk politics. And since that bozo rule was put in place, this country's been doing nothing but falling apart. You guys are all very smart people. You know when to have these conversations. You know when to have them the most effectively. That's all up to you. I'm just encouraging you. You got to talk about this stuff to people. Pay attention to what's going on in your school board. We need to protect our children. Children are like one of the only things that's even beautiful in this world. You need to protect your children at all costs and the children of your hometown. Pay attention to your school board. Pay attention to your township board. Pay attention to your city hall, your county board of commissioners, your state representatives, senators. Make sure that they're honoring their oath. And if they're not, get somebody up there that will. Vote them out. You're fired. Like, voting is the least you can do. If you're not voting and you're not doing anything, then you actually don't deserve freedom at all. If you're willing to give up an essential liberty for a little bit of perceived security, you don't deserve that either, and you will wind up with none. So yeah, that's the least you can do. And there's a lot more. A lot more. Things that are very, very important. You're only important if you actually get involved and pay attention and try to motivate others in a positive direction for things that are good and things that actually matter, like the Constitution, that I believe should always matter. Nice to see you, Randy Smith. What's up, Ross 77? James? Mike McClune? Nice victory today, guys. Like, very, very nice victory. But we need to do what the left does. They say, we got this gun control passed. Now we need more gun control. We don't want that, but we need that strategy. Big win. ATF's rules are becoming a house of cards. Now let's stop affirming the NFA and let's just get that repealed. Let's strike down all these rules and strike down all these gun control laws, because that's a winning strategy. And that would truly make me happy when the Second Amendment is actually followed again. Lots of stuff going on right now, guys. Hopefully little bits of the stream are a little bit funny, and hopefully some of these parts of the stream was like, ooh, actually, he's onto something there. I do need to pay more attention. And hopefully you're happy because a major ATF rule was just struck down, because life's always a mix of everything, and to everything there is a season. A time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. And I want to break down gun control and keep building the Constitution up. And the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments. And the only 10 that I like. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. Gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to gain and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. All right, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. and have a good one.